inserting these two tiny words and watch God do some huge things through us for the rest of the world. Thank you so much to the NCA faculty and staff and board for dedicating your lives to training our children. We really appreciate it. And I'm going to pray right quick to help open us up. And I'm going to try to add these two words as best as I can. So if you'll join me, that'd be great. Father, we thank you so much for what you're doing in the world today. We thank you so much of what you're doing in our school. We thank you so much of what you're doing in the lives of our families that are involved here at NCA. And we're so grateful for the blessings that you put upon us, for the safeties that you put upon us. We're so grateful for that. God, I want to be an answer to prayer. I want to partner with you. That'd be great. And Father, we thank you so much. Show me how I can help in the world today. We thank you so much, our faculty, our staff, our students, my church, how we can help you to do more things in this world, help you to do more things through the people and the lives that we affect. We're so grateful for the blessings that you provide upon us, and we give you all the praise and the glory in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Thank you.
Grateful for people who are coming and sharing in these devotion times. Certainly appreciate Mark coming and sharing tonight virtually. It's always a fun process to speak to other people virtually. I know it's quite odd. Most of our administrators, Eric didn't get the memo, or Matt didn't pass along the memo. Matt had said can take the night off for meeting tonight. He consulted with me first, so that's why they're not here. Brian didn't get the offer evidently, so the stalwart. I know Vicki is Vicki been able to join us?
Vicki and Jeff are having a hard time joining. I turned over the meeting to you, so I'm not sure where they're trying to get in.
I hear the sound
like several times and they can't get in.
I hear that the sound does work now, so.
You want to?
The sound does work now.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I couldn't quite, I'm sorry, I couldn't quite follow, but Vicki needs a new link and I can't get it off my phone to get to her.
I'm working on it.
Brian's got it.
Yes.
Okay. We'll go ahead and get going and then can join. So Jeff's in the same boat as that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it to both of them.
Okay. We have the agenda prepared. We do need to add a new item on new business. We need to add a third item, calendar update. So that was communicated via email to us this week. So we're going to go ahead and make sure that gets added to the agenda. Other than that, no changes. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda with that change.
Motion to approve the agenda with adding the calendar addition to new business.
Second from Dustin, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay. Any opposed? Good. All right. Meeting minutes from November 5th meeting. Anything stood out in there that we need to note?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Okay. Motion to approve minutes. Need a second?
Second.
Second from Bay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move into our reports. Is Matt out there? Is he? Okay.
Eric can just give a huge report now.
Yeah.
You got the floor.
Go ahead, Eric.
Straight to the point.
Eric, we're going to start with you. Seriously. Yeah.
All right. Just some addition to what was written from last week. Tomorrow we'll come out with the NCA classification. They've been putting things off just to kind of see what schools are doing. They're even having a seasonal program. And so we got email today that tomorrow they'll give us the classification. So last year our basketball programs, they were in class 3. I don't think we'll be in class 3. This year, I'm hoping we'll be in class 2. Cross my fingers, we'll be in class 1, but it looks like we'll be in class 2, which makes it a little bit more difficult scheduling each year, especially if they took everything back a couple more months. And so you do your scheduling the year before, you're kind of hoping this is where we're going to be. And so like for tonight, we're playing Fair Grove. In the basketball for the boys, we played Aurora on Tuesday. So we're playing some big schools geared towards in case we do go up to that class 3.
Would
Swimming.
that be for next year or for this
No,
current year?
this year. Yeah.
So we don't even know what we are yet. Huh.
Yeah, and then so they also added, I've got to read through, this gave us the documents, how they're gonna handle postseason. So it looks like there's not even gonna be, they'll have the districts, but they're not gonna have a district site. And so it looks like teams will be traveling to different schools for, different levels of the district tournament and state competition. They did somewhat of that, in the championship side of it in the fall, where you still had a district site, but then you ended up going and playing at another school, a higher ranked school, when it came to the state competition. So when you got to your semifinals and your championship, it was at a school. Swimming, it's been fun with them, seeing what they've been posting, their times. Linda Moore's helping me out as when it was coming to like the caps and the uniforms and jackets and stuff. She's a swimming guru, and so I kind of allowing her to help me in that process. But getting the text messages this last Saturday at the Viking swim meet, seeing our girls wearing their caps and showing that they represent New Covenant and that they won those those heats and those meets and stuff. So it's fun to watch. So we're pretty much we're at the slow part of the school year on the sports. It slows down during the winter, and then we'll pick up major in the back up in the spring with all the sports. Right now, I'm working with trying to find spring sports when it comes to golf matches, and not golf matches, tennis matches. Last year we used Cooper. We had to pay a fee, and so I'm working with them now to see what we can do another year of that stuff. So that's really the addition to what was given earlier.
Does Misha always change the 2 to 3 in the middle? It seems very strange.
No, so like for instance, we didn't find out even in the fall sports.
Yeah.
We didn't find out until late.
Yep.
But they expanded that time because there are schools like up in the St. Louis area, Kansas City, that they're so tight and strict.
Yeah.
And so they were kind of hoping that it would loosen up and schools would be able to go back in. Misha's done a great job of doing whatever they can to allow us to play. If you look at just across the board how kids are, they need a chance to get out and just get rid of some of the pressure and some of the things that they're dealing with. And sports is a great avenue for them.
Yep.
And so they're doing everything possible, but also dealing with in the different counties and states. Like soccer, they moved, usually it's in the St. Louis area. They had to move it to Springfield because our Springfield 3 counties open more than the others. And so it's either have a game there with no fans at a state championship or move the site. And so they're doing everything possible. So it's just things are changing constantly. We get emails every single day. Need the game. We lost the game. Anybody interested in playing tonight? We'll travel. Come here. We've got officials. And so for our parents, we're just kind of reminding them that it could change. So have your bags ready to come in and play.
Congrats on the soccer season.
Thank you.
That was a big deal.
Yeah.
Good year.
A lot of fun. Wore out, tired.
Coach of the year too.
Coach of the year.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So I finally just took my own bed now. You've been sleeping in different parts. So that's
The things we do.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure I probably should, because I always stay in the mattress downstairs.
Right.
That link can be found on YouTube for anybody who wants to share it. All right, appreciate it. Matt, you do your report?
I got an addition to my report.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll talk about that now or when we do COVID. Just, you know, the COVID response is kind of something just, you really can't help it. It just kind of tends to run your day. I mean, does things come up and the responsiveness, and so it's important that we're just kind of on top of the cases and monitoring where they're falling, and so that just takes a lot of attention, and the administrators and the nurses and encouraging our families to get that information to the right people right off the bat. Sometimes information can get emailed from a parent to a teacher, and the teacher might assume that it's gone to the nurse, and so the quicker they can get to the nurse lets the principals know, and the principals start, doing the follow-up, whether it's looking to see if they're close contact. So just a lot of that's just very, very fluid. So we're gonna have to put something out here pretty soon about Warrior Kitchen and lunches, because we just had a confirmed case. So we'll have to, our kids will have to brown bag it here at Warrior. So we'll send out a text alert and an email probably. I might work on that a little bit here pretty soon so we can get it out. So through at least next Thursday. And then we'll see maybe for pizza. With the shortened quarantine, that helps a little bit. But as far as other than on the report, nothing. And I don't know for high school, I was just going to mention something for high school report. Since for Dawn. Our high school, Ms. Banward and student council, and just really appreciate all their efforts to have some spirit, not only Spirit Week, but they had a door decorating contest and just some things that kind of cheer kids up and have some fun with. And so they had a really cool assembly, and the kids worked hard to put some things together, some fun games, and they had help judging the doors. So elementary classes got to go around and judge the doors that were decorated. And before you leave, I'd encourage you to walk to high school. They're really good. And what's cool is one of the elementary classrooms, I can't remember which one of their kiddos is in quarantine. And so they had the iPads that Brian did. And so that kid at home got to be on the iPad walking down the hallway with his classmates and like, here's this door. And then the kid got to see it. And so that's been cool for our kids to get to do some of that stuff. It's some Christmas cheer, and it's very well, it's appreciated. So thanks to Dawn and Miss Van Wert and the student council, those kids for doing that. So that's been cool.
Any other reports or anything additions for principals?
Sharon wanted to pass just an update. They did their the virtual open house or the informational coffee. And so Sharon just passed on, they're working on, she's got 35 applications from junior kindergarten, and kindergarten to be screened in January, 4 for first grade. And so she wanted to make sure and let the board know that they're working on that. So that's good.
Any questions for Matt for his or other principal reports? Okay, Marlis. Which hotel? We can't quite figure out from the decor.
I think it's a Holiday Inn Express, and I believe we're in Greenfield or Green something, Indiana. What was that?
You're not sure which hotel or which town you're in. Is Al with you?
Oh, he's not in the room. I don't know where he's at.
What's the final destination?
All right, go ahead, Marlis.
I think he's in the hot tub. Did you want something for me, or I'm missing everything? So what's going on there? Did you need something from me, or?
Do you have anything to add to your report?
No, I do not have anything to add to my report.
Any questions that we can ask that Marlis can't hear?
Yeah, that's right. Now I can hear you now, but I couldn't before.
Okay. Any questions for Marlis? No. Okay. Anything to add from Glenda, Marlis, that you're aware of?
From Delana, you mean, or?
Glenda or Delana? Either one.
Glenda, they've done their year-end letter, and I think with the banquet and year-end gifts, and there'll still be some donations that come in the next several weeks. But I think she said for a pandemic year, we're I think a little over 90,000, which is pretty good. And she said there'll probably be a little bit more that comes in now in the end of the year. So that's pretty good.
Marlis, anything to add for Delanis?
There are a number of students who are withdrawing at semester. I think one of them's a move for certain. There may be a few more. I really don't know the specifics of it. I think a lot of it's challenges between academics related to COVID. The principals could probably respond to that a little bit better, but I think it's just the dynamics of missing classes and how that affects their students. So there's over, I think around 12 that we think are probably going to be withdrawing. And we do have some that are going to be added, but not quite that many, maybe half as much.
All right. Brian?
I apologize for the technical rough start here. We've got so many different things going on. We literally have given out so many different objects, technology related, and it's a good thing they're getting used. Like Mr. Searson had said, the iPads on the poles have gone out in the classrooms, and a lot of them, and they're using them for virtual, which is awesome, or for the learning for those that are quarantined at home. One of the things that Linda and I have been working on the last few days has been coordinating programs that will be coming through the gym, and these spaces are auditorium spaces, and trying to facilitate practices, rehearsals, and games, and everything. A lot of moving pieces when we're all sharing the same space exclusively. So appreciate everybody's patience. Everybody's been very flexible in that. So I'm looking forward to our practices that are going on. High school choir and band concert Monday night, and then we're filming the children's program Tuesday, and then we'll release that the following week, and then next Thursday and Friday, or Thursday. One of the two. Friday is the intermediate and junior high programs here as well. So just a lot of different facilitating going on right now with that. I think that's about it. So facilities are going well. Facilities are going well. We're dealing with the cleaning just like we normally would. I think everything's a go. We're just kind of supporting everybody that has a need at this point, and I feel like we're doing a really good job of it.
You are? Thank you.
Yeah, I think just across the board to our administrative team, just on down to faculty, staff, just really grateful for all the work in what has most likely been the most challenging season of your careers, whatever field that is in, if it's like anybody else's career in this season. So certainly applaud what is happening and what has happened this year. So appreciate all of that. Okay, we'll move on to old business COVID-19 update. Matt had sent an email out today, if you didn't get that, with some information to the board and also the COVID committee team. Matt, why don't you share whatever?
Sure. Just real quick, going into Thanksgiving break, that last week or two, we were getting hammered. We crawled across the finish line to get to break. But the break allowed us to reset most of the quarantines, and some of the positive cases expired. So we kind of got to reset. Of course, coming back from Thanksgiving, you're just wondering what the impact of anybody traveling. Of course, our whole area was watching that. And so we've been just monitoring closely, and I think it's been a little better than I thought it would be in terms of cases. And so we're kind of still watching that. I know sometimes when those daily things go out, it just, man, there's so many. But if you look at like the total what happened, like the total positive cases at a given time, when you look at, you've got people coming off, going on and coming off and returning back to school. So like, and I don't know for some folks that don't think this is a lot or not a lot, I think the number's pretty good considering. But like right now, active cases, we have 6. So I know when you see regular, at least 1 or 2 a day, you tend to, man, it's like there's a whole bunch. So what we're watching is, where those cases are, and those 6 are kind of spread out. In the high school, 2 are from the same household. Our total cases for the year, we're probably getting we're getting ready to reach probably 70, but I'd say over 40 of those cases have been since like November, and just like the area, everybody saw that increase. And so that's where our cases have been. Overall, probably high school and staff positive cases are about even. So there's like 25, 26 in each of those categories. And then in the elementary, intermediate, and junior high have been relatively low. So I think currently there's like maybe one, and maybe 2 in those other areas. So what we're watching is, and that's why we've got to be on top of every day, just watching to see if, where those numbers fall. if they start to get big, like specifically in the high school or in the elementary or over at Liberty. We kind of look at Liberty as one group because they crisscross so much. But if you're looking at, if you have to kind of address, whether it's going virtual in one area, if you're looking at total percentage of kids, if you look at that 3 to 5 standard, you can still be, even if you get into that 3 or 4%, but you're not seeing spread, then, the health department says you can probably still continue to operate. And so most of the cases that we're seeing are kids are exposed at home, or it's in the family, or they were exposed somewhere, and then they came to school, but then they were removed. They do their time out, and they're able to come back in. We haven't seen patterns of spread, and if it can continue that way, I think we continue to work through it. Unless you get an area that gets hit, that impacts people, like our kitchen. So if one person in the kitchen gets it, they're just in such close proximity, even though they're wearing masks, that's a given. And so that's, we had that happen over at Liberty. And the fact that we're almost at the end of the semester and it hasn't happened until now has been, we've been blessed. So we'll watch going into the break. I don't know if we'll see the same kind of, when we come back from Christmas, if it's a good comparison of the cases that we saw coming back from people from the holiday for Thanksgiving or Christmas might seem a little higher. We'll just really encourage our parents when we're coming back, just to make sure especially those 3 days or so before the kids come back, that they're really watching for symptoms, so we can keep those folks at home. And the other thing we're really encouraging families, I'll use Lauren. If Lauren thinks she might have it, her family is staying home until they know the result one way or another. So if she's waiting on a test that her kids still aren't coming while she's waiting, but to keep the family home. And that's helpful. Our families have been really patient and understanding when our principals have to call, and whether it's quarantine and things like that, our families have just been really great and working. So we'll talk a little bit more about the coming back from the Christmas break, but that's kind of where we're at. The concerts and everything, I put in there kind of what we're going to be doing, what we've been doing for athletic events and for the concerts, and I feel very comfortable that the concerts will have a pretty controlled environment based on how we're going to spread seats and limiting the number of people that can be in the building. And we've also let folks know if someone is really concerned and maybe they're just not comfortable coming, the teacher will work through that with their student in terms of an alternative assignment if they don't feel comfortable coming. It's going to be, they come, they sit, concert's done, it's time to leave. We don't want people hanging out and interacting. And so I think we'll be able to handle that pretty well. So, and then when we come back from the break, and I think everyone's by now aware of the quarantine has shortened. That's been a blessing in terms of going from 14 days to 10, and then even 7 with a negative test. And there's been some talk about if you're positive coming back sooner than 10 days. That's been floated out there, but nothing that looks like it's on the horizon that they would be shortening that as of right now. But everybody's working hard. Our nurses are just amazing with working with families and getting the information. The principals keeping those lists that the teachers need to know who's in, who's out, and that's hard because you're going to your list and it changes, and so our teachers have to kind of be responsive to that. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay. Of course, we've got the COVID committee that continues to be available when that is needed. Obviously, there's lots of this whole process where things are adapting, even with some of the modified guidelines that were put out by Missouri and then restricted a little bit more by Greene County. So just lots of things that our committee's addressing, and as things need to be addressed, even with the guidelines that we've been using here as well. So any questions regarding COVID stuff at this point? We'll get to the calendar piece, but anything else COVID related?
I didn't get that email, so if somebody could forward that to me. I'm probably not under this. Would you know?
It went to your Gmail.
It went to your New Covenant one morning.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I can send it to you over.
I got a question. If somebody is pretty sure they have COVID, but they haven't went and got tested, they won't go get tested because they don't want it for whatever reason on their records.
Right.
How are we treating that? I mean,
Sure.
Basically, we just assume that they should.
Good question. And so, that's happened whether someone they just are positive they have it and they just, listen, I just want to do my 10 days. Or you might have a situation where someone says, I'm not going to go get tested, and then what the nurses will share, or if it's me, and usually it's the nurses, that then we just have to go by that it's a presumed positive. And we have to operate the same way. We can't have someone just saying, I don't want to get tested. Oh, okay, come on in. And they understand that, because we can't force someone to get tested. And so if someone chooses not to, we just let them know on our side. We just have to treat it like a presumed positive. And so they stay home. But if it's a student, we'll still look and see if there's a situation where we also have, because if we're presuming you're positive, we've got to presume if you were in close contact to Dustin's going to have to quarantine, even if we don't have a positive test. But that's kind of how we have to operate. But even the folks that have had questions as far as not wanting to get tested, they've been pretty good just knowing that I understand I'll have to stay home. So.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap to get tested.
No, listen, we've had a couple at work where they're like, the spouse went and got tested, they were positive, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the other spouse is like, I feel just like you feel. I'm not going to spend $200 to them and tell me that I got it.
Yeah.
So I just wonder how.
Yeah, and then the other part of that, someone will say, well, I could go get a rapid test for like $80, or if I go through the normal process, it's not. And we tell them, hey, you what? Because if they're going to go get tested, that's totally your choice, and we'll just wait until we get the test result and go from there. Yeah, you're right, especially when it's in a household.
So it should be the same time frame, quarantine wise, pull themselves out.
Yeah, the same for 10 days.
And do you want to add some more to their days?
All right, anything else? All right, new business, the tax deferred annuity employee benefit follow-up. We, just for context, had an email motion that we used back at the end of November for something that was more time sensitive. Process. Kelly had also sent out an email today for those of you who aren't here, actually for everybody, that contained that email thread with the motion to vote, but also the policy wording and the handbook information with that. Since that process is unfolded, there's a new development in that. So Marlis, go ahead and turn it over to you to share what you need to about that annuity benefit.
Okay, I'll give you just a little more information because I know that was all kind of out in left field for everybody. But we have a 403B tax deferred annuity plan, and that plan is contributions made only by the employee. There's not an employer match in it. And some regulations were put in a few years ago that anyway, if you have over 120 active employees at the end of the year, or at the beginning of a year, then you have to have an audit. And the audit is typically going to cost between $6,500 and $8,000. We have the largest participation in that plan than we ever have over the last few years. But at this point, the amount of money in that plan is $200,000. And so the paperwork that's required on that, there's two forms. One's through the Social Security Administration. The other one is a 5500 through the Internal Revenue Service, or whatever department it is. But that particular form it became more complicated when that happened. And I had set up to meet with the person with our audit company right before COVID happened, because these forms are usually due in July. And at any rate, we finally got back to meeting in November and went over it. And I went back and reviewed like the 3 or 4 last years of all of our employees and who was actually active at the end of the year, et cetera. And as it all worked out, our forms done through the year of 2018 all fell under that requirement. So that was a very good thing. And then 2019, and these forms are done by the calendar year. So you fill out the 2019 form in 2020. In 2019 was the first year that we went over that number where we are required to have an outside audit. And it doesn't matter if you have $50 million in there or 200,000, you still have to go through the same motions. So that's why these are expensive. So we discussed what we could do to get us out of that situation. And the original proposal was, and that's the one that I emailed you, and I appreciate very much your quick response on that, allowed us, our goal was to just have those that qualified for health insurance, and health insurance requirements are 30 hours a week. However, due to the wording of our plan document, that is not something that we can do. We have to change it to the wording that I have, that Kelly has sent out. And the wording sounds real funny because it's kind of sounds like how government people would word something. Because what we are doing is we are making employees who work less than 20 hours a week to be excluded. And so then if you are no longer working over 20 hours a week, excuse me, I'm going to start that over, okay? So if you come in and you're hired, and subbing is an example of where this confusion lies. We have like 35 people from one year to the next that are working one school year and not the next because they may be subs, or they may be working in extended care where there's a lot of turnover. There's college kids. And so when they come in, what we are proposing that we switch to is that when they come in, we expect them to work X amount of hours. And typically subs do not work more than 20 hours a week. We probably have a couple that might. I honestly haven't even looked into that yet. But so you would base whether they are excluded from the retirement plan by whether you expect them to work more than or less than 20 hours. And that would be figured by that calendar year that they come in. Then when you do your review at the end of that calendar year, they are either excluded or they're included. And then you'll look back, and then you'll decide whether or not they will be able to participate for the next year. And so that's just how it has to work. And so I'm working with Stephanie on this, and she's been very helpful. And the challenge that I thought was going to be more difficult was getting it through TIA Craft. But they have already worked through it all, and that's why we were able to come up with this change that needs to happen. And so the wording, I think the motion is what the motion was last meeting. But then I think Kelly set out a way we can reword it. So you can either, I don't know what's official, whether you make a motion to accept what I'm talking about, what's written down there, or which is going to be the policy, or whether you need to make a motion that says we're going to change what the previous email said. I don't know the technicality of that. And the other thing I would say is in the handbook, we will then explain it a little bit more than in the policy, because the goal is to keep the policy, which is the basic information, and then the handbook will detail how they are excluded, whether they're excluded or not excluded, and how that process works. And so I don't know if anybody has any questions about that.
Uh,
Go ahead, Vic.
I had questions on the wording,
Yes.
Here's my question. If they normally work or are expected to work more than 20 hours a week, that are expected to work is very...
That is wording that has been given to me through advice. That's not my wording. That is because we don't know. What do we expect their hours are going to be? So for instance, if we're hiring a daycare worker and we think they're going to work 3 afternoons a week, that would be what we expect they are going to work that first year. And then after that first year, we do a look back. So after that first year, if they worked 25 hours a week, then they would be eligible to participate. I will tell you that as long as we've had this plan, and I think it was started in 97, we have never had a part-time employee participate in the plan. And so, and we're not cutting anybody off, but that is why the wording is so interesting, Bay, and also how they use that excluded word is kind of odd too, as you use it in and out. But that was what we worked through as being the wording that is most applicable to the situation.
I think wording is made on purpose so that the, every circumstance can be judged on its own merit and not have to be everything lumped into one. I think that's why it's so vague.
I don't see how that helps us reduce the overall numbers though, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah, because we have a significant number of teachers. Like I said, that 35 number, I went over the last 3 to 4 years and took who were given W-2s in December 31st, and then who actually worked the next calendar year. And we dropped 35 people. That's not unusual. And it's because, again, daycare and substitute teachers, most of them, they don't return. That's one thing. So so there's two things. They're showing, I'm actually going down a path that's a different answer. I'm sorry, I'm not answering that correctly. But we have a number of people who will work, they're on our roster and they work first semester, but not second. But we also have a large amount of substitute teachers. There may be 30 of them, I don't know. And then daycare workers who really, they don't ever meet an average of 20 hours a week per the school year. And actually, if you look at a school calendar, the number of weeks that there's not a 5-day week is significant just to start with. And so this year may be an exception to that because of the COVID situation. But Kelly, you may have an answer to how many substitutes we have, but there's a significant amount of substitutes. And like I said, typically they work a lower amount of hours. And our office people, this really doesn't change office people, we know what they're going to work. And we don't even have any there may be a part-time office person that would continue to qualify. But the goal is to reduce the number of people who qualify because they don't participate in it anyway, and to spare us on a $200,000 retirement plan to spend $7,000 a year to have this audit completed. Because her recommendation, honestly, was to terminate the plan. She said it is not cost effective to have that plan. And I said, I don't think that that's the right choice for our school. I think we need to have that option available. But if we can reduce the overhead management of the plan, then to me, that's a win, because we're really not excluding people who have ever been active in it.
I have a couple of questions. This is Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys hear me all right? So if we already classify employment as full-time or part-time, and none of our part-time people have elected to participate yet, can we just restrict participation to full-time employment?
No.
Okay.
It has to do, and I sent a copy of a document to Kelly that you could share. There are only limited options we have. And that was my thought, Jeff. That's why I was going with the 30 hours, because I thought that would be all the full-time people. But there is a box that says non-resident aliens. There's no exclusions. And then there's a box that says employees who normally work less than 20 hours a week. There's student employees and other employer plans, collective bargaining, highly compensated employees, per diem employees, and then describe exclusion. So it has to do with the way the whole plan document is written. That would have been my choice too.
Okay. The substitute teachers are not per diem employees?
I to explain to me what per diem really means, and then I'll be better able to answer that.
They are, I mean, I would think that'd be paid for the day, paid for the act of substituting. The single day that you work, you get paid for each of those days.
Yes, they are. They get paid for each day, but they don't typically work 20 hours a week because we
Right.
have to
So
track the hours.
We could exclude per diem employees then, if that's one of the options of exclusion.
I don't know. All I can tell you is that we went around with it with the legal team at TIA Craft, and I can go back to them with that question, but we are limited with the time we have to accomplish it. But that's between the legal representative we have who we have handling the plan and TIA Craft. The conclusion was that was the best decision. And I mean, I can go back and ask them if that is an option or not. But if that is the case, I would prefer that we make a decision tonight contingent upon the answer to that question.
Well, I'm confident.
Because otherwise we're stuck in another year of this cycle.
Yeah, I think this is very confusing the way it's written. And then as I'm reading the last couple pages of the policy, it looks like it's defined as expected or actually worked more than 20 hours. And then at the bottom, there's 1,000 hour a year threshold in there as well. Are they the same thing? What if we expect you to work 20 hours, you contribute, and then you don't work that 1,000 hours? Do you have to take all your money out? You're no longer eligible?
No, yeah, you no longer will be contributing to the plan. You're no longer eligible. Yes.
But what if you've already contributed in the plan year?
Then you would be an employee you would be somebody who has money in the fund but is not actively participating.
Okay. So
but
can
that
we
would
just leave
still
it as
qualify as your total numbers, which is probably where you're going.
maybe?
Yeah.
Can we just leave it as 1,000 hours? If you work 1,000 hours a year, you're eligible for the plan. I don't care how you work them.
Yes. But there are not many people that is 20 hours a week, short of 2 weeks of vacation. And we have most part-time employees are 9 months employees to start with. They're the year-round ones, if they participate, that's
I know. I'm just
fine.
looking for
We're
more.
mostly talking about substitutes and extended care. And it was extended care and substitutes that push us over the top.
All right. I'm just looking for a more simple way to word this to still.
I can certainly pursue that, Jeff. I understand where you're going. I guess I didn't challenge that point with them, but I can certainly do that tomorrow and get an answer.
Okay. Or maybe we could, I don't know. I don't want to add confusion, but if you have to work 1,000 hours in a year to become eligible, I know that's how our 401 or pension used to be back in the way back when, is that after you worked a certain number of hours in a year, then you were eligible to participate in whichever one of the plans that was as a time. So on year 0, you wouldn't be eligible, but then if you hit the hurdle, you would qualify for the following year.
Yeah, that's what this is really.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it's a little peculiar to say work or expected to work. That could open us up to something where this was my expectation, so I participated. Now I'm out. What happens? It's still a number. It's just a little squirrely. If we could get that 1,000 hours, it'd be a little.
And that is because when you start that day 1, our employees are all eligible to start day 1. So if you just say work, there is no work that they have completed. So those full-time employees are a part of it because they're expected to work. The ones who work 30 hours a week are expected to work that. And so, and I think Lorna kind of spoke upon that. I didn't quite hear all of her explanation, but I think she kind of touched upon how that works.
I understand, but waiting the year could be a retention strategy as well. If somebody's really eager to participate, then after they've hit the 1,000 hours, then they'd be eligible and would continue their employment. If they're only here for 1 year and out without hitting that, then sort of no harm, no foul anyway. Those are all the thoughts and questions.
Do our job descriptions outline expected number of hours per position?
Not on a part-time job description, because a substitute is totally up to them. And that's the huge thing. You will have extended care, kitchen, office will tend to all have scheduled hours of week. Like, I expect that one of my assistants is going to work 20 hours a week. That's kind of what the expectation is. But when you get into substitutes, they're almost like contracted labor, except they're paid through payroll because they work when they want to. And a lot of them have multiple schools that they sub through. Some of them only sub with New Covenant Academy. But we have we never say to them, well, if you can only work one day a month, we don't want you to sub. Because we have to have every substitute we can. In times like this, you could probably ask Matt or one of the principals how challenging it's been to cover the classrooms. So the answer would be probably, Kelly could answer that better too. She works on the job descriptions more than I do.
Does it say how many hours are expected on a job?
No. On substitute jobs and all that. In fact, we were, Sherry and I have been going back and forth on that. You even look at the, you have in your board packet tonight an example of the one that's going for the counselor.
Yep.
And to be honest with you, so that is like at the very top, it'll just say, for like the counselor, it's a 10-month per school calendar year, and it doesn't have specific hours on it. For use and hourly workers, there is no specific time requirement. It just, whether or not we have to work on that is another issue, but right now there's not.
Marlis, what is the time sensitive part of this?
The time sensitive is if this isn't done by the end of this year. I mean, it has to be done this year, or we will have to have another audit, and it'll be another. It's just like a $6,500 to $8,000 time sensitivity.
So, is it that we have to have the policy and the guidelines specifically written by then?
I have to be able to sign the document, and I can't sign the document if we don't agree on what the document should look like.
What are you saying?
No, I'm just saying yes to your question. What? Yes, the whole thing has to be written out, and she has to be able to sign it.
Okay, so everything has to be wrapped up, resolved before, okay.
And are you saying December 31st as far as the end of the year, or is there a different date when you say end of year?
Yeah, I would be very nervous to go. We could probably do it next week yet, but beyond that, I wouldn't count on it happening, because you're talking about into a holiday season. And it's, as far as TIA CREF is concerned, we're not even on their radar normally, because we are such a little minute company or school. We have so little contributions. We're just a speck.
Yeah, but so just from well, go ahead.
I feel like that she has 3 experts in this field that she has dealt with. Legal people, the plan people, and our auditor have told us how this should be worded. They certainly know more than we do here tonight, trying to figure out how it should be worded. And I feel like if that's what it needs to be, even though I agree it's vague, if that's what it needs to say to make us in compliance, then that's the way we should go.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've already approved in the email motion, right? Everybody, we already voted on that.
Right, we would need to go back and rescind that, because that's not gonna make the change that is necessary to make us in compliance.
Yeah.
So we just need to vote.
So basically, a brand new motion or a motion clarifying the guidelines of that. Because the motion has guidelines in it, correct?
Okay, so I rewrote a potential motion.
What was the last motion first, please?
Oh, You mean the one that was in the email?
Yes.
It's
It was
eligible.
Marlis requested the motion to make the amendment to the NCA tax deferred annuity plan document that would exclude employees who are not eligible for health benefits from being eligible to participate in retirement plans.
Okay.
And Lisa made the motion and
Okay.
So that motion would be rescinded and a new motion would be made that would include the 20 hours expected to be worked.
I have potential verbiage if you'd like me to read it.
Sure.
Okay.
A motion was made by whoever to approve the verbiage update policy GDBC benefits for NCA employees, which redefines the eligibility of employees to participate in a tax deferred annuity option from all employees, quote unquote, to eligible for the plan if they normally work or expected to work more than 20 hours per week. Furthermore, the motion approves relevant verbiage to be updated in the employee handbook. And I think we would need to add to that, and it overrides the email motion. So I think the part that you're trying to work
Right.
out is expected to work more than 20 hours a week, that is the language that is being discussed.
Yeah, I think that's the piece that that's the piece that we're dealing with in that, so.
If we had a lot of people coming and going in and out of the plan that were at that 20-hour threshold, give or take a little, this would be a different conversation. But since we don't have.
The actual,
Yeah, go ahead, Marlis.
the actual document will say employees who normally work less than 20 hours per week. The other part is just what we use in our employee handbook to guide that decision making. That's just the procedure. That is not the actual document.
Okay. All right. Someone wants to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we rescind the previous motion in the email and replace it with the motion that Kelly just read, or replace the wording with the 20 hours a week.
Second.
Vicky, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Hey.
That was Bay and Jeff. Okay, 5.8 counselor job description. This is a newer position. This is Mr. Total's position currently, and this job description has been functional but never approved within policy. Is there a backstory on that, Matt?
It had been done, it just got forgotten, we just forgot to
Okay.
bring it to the board.
Okay.
Back when we were filling, we created the position, the job description, and then when we were hiring, we realized it hadn't been approved as policy, so, but it's been in existence, it just hadn't been approved.
Okay, so this was in packets this week. Any questions or discussion points on that policy?
Hey, did we revise the high school counselor position this year, earlier in the year?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry.
So,
This is almost the same as the high school job description. However, Michael and Jacob Toll reviewed it to specifically add in things that he was responsible for.
okay, so this was reviewed since June 19? Okay. I just want to make sure that whatever we propose changes from that high school counselor that apply here were also included in this revision of the intermediate.
Right.
Yeah, it was actually a collaborative effort by Kimberly Petrie, Jacob Toll, and Michael Howard.
Okay.
Questions?
But I guess just for clarity, those changes in October were included in here? Yes, that's true?
Yeah, it's reflective of, yes,
Yeah, okay.
of the most recent job duties.
I move to approve.
Second?
Second from Bay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Calendar, Matt sent email about that earlier this week. Matt, you want to add
Sure.
anything to that?
So, and I'm working at the same time trying to get information sent out to families about lunch. So emails out, so I'm just doing the text order. So when we set our calendar in the past, we usually do a work day. The teachers come back to kind of set, when the students come back at the semester. That's what we've normally done in the past. And this year with the days and the way the first fell, I just thought we'll just all come back on the same day. Of course, that was back in January when we were setting this calendar. What happens, the teachers are constantly having to, I got my seated class roster, and then there are kids that are going on and off the quarantine, positive cases, and so that list just changes. So what's gonna happen is during the break, there will be cases reported. It's gonna happen. So Lisa submits that. I do not want our principals and our nurses to trying to have all that, be working on that during the break to have where everything is, that's what it would take. So extending the calendar to our families where the kids will get that Monday off, and that Monday will be used, we'll give teachers a day, we'll give the nurses a day, the administrators a day to look at what's come in from the break, what kids are now virtual, giving the teachers the information they need. So when they look at their roster on that first day of the semester, which is your first day, new semester, it's kind of a fresh start for everybody. It's a fresh, start to get your expectations, and you want that to go smoothly. And if you're starting the day with is Johnny sick? And we're trying to pull information, and then through their day that they're trying to start their semester, we're trying to add kids and take kids off. And so having that Monday where the faculty, staff come in, the nurses, and that gives us a day to get rosters set, to get to kind of let the dust settle as far as who is where, what list are they on? Are they on the virtual list? And so we would just be asking to extend, we communicate this to our families immediately. In fact, I'd send this letter out tomorrow that our families, the break will go through that Monday. Faculty comes in, works, gets things ready, and then we start on Tuesday. And that's the rationale. I think trying to start with, it'll be hard. And you forcing people to work to try to have all that done. And that's going to happen. There's going to be some work involved over the break. We're not going to be able to get out of that, but it would give us address it.
I have a question.
Yeah, Vicki.
Hey, Matt, have you, and it may just not work with the number of days that we're required with the state, and I know we've got some built-in days, but would it be more beneficial? I know that because Christmas is only a week before, a little over a week before you guys would come back. Is there any way to bump that start date a week? We're supposed to come in on that Monday, the students, could you bump it back 1 week? Would that help totally settle things out from vacation, or do you think parents would just extend their vacation? You see what I'm asking? I'm just wondering if that would help at all.
You're saying do an additional week?
Oh,
Yeah. Is that an option? How hard would that be? Or is that even an option?
What I would worry about would be the child care for that full week. Something that I was thinking about even going back into when we started was, which is still, you're still having the kids at home. So parents are still having to deal with that, whether you're calling it vacation or if you did virtual for 1 week to let it settle. I was also wanting to kind of see how coming back from Thanksgiving worked. And I don't know if that's a good comparison or not. In other words, kind of looking at, here we had a major holiday, we came back on that Monday. How did cases look comparing that with it? It's hard to try to predict travel habits of people, Thanksgiving versus what people are doing on New Year's. So, just from talking to other administrators in the area, most their calendars are sticking with a work day and then kids coming back on that next day. If we were getting slammed right now and looking at, this is what Thanksgiving did, and I'm not saying that it's an even comparison. I think with Christmas, there might maybe you might see a little bit more just because people have had an opportunity to be out and about more. I don't know. I think at a minimum, and I think the day would help us. And that's kind of where I'm at. I think we can handle it with just getting that day for things to get. Then also just encouraging families that, especially those 2 to 3 days prior to coming back. So, and that's that, like New Year's on
Friday.
on Friday.
Friday. Mhm.
Saturday, Sunday, and now you add that Monday. And when I talk to Kendra and when we talk about those, prior to returning, especially those 2 to 3 days are really important in terms of letting folks see if they have symptoms. And I think that would give us a pretty good indicator. Hopefully if people are on that Monday and they're seeing symptoms, to not send them. So that's kind of what I was thinking based. Monday gives us an extra day for symptoms to appear. So
No, thanks. I was just thinking about whether that would be helpful or not, but I appreciate that. Makes sense to me.
yeah, and I thought about that, or doing virtual, and then teachers could before they went on break of what that week would look like. But I just think we can avoid having the kids virtual. If we were, like I said, if we were getting hammered right now, I would definitely say we probably need to do that. And again, we might be talking at the January board meeting and you guys be going, Matt. But right now, if the board approved just extending the break one more day.
Jeff sent in a question from the chat. He's asking, how did this work coming out of Thanksgiving break? And how are we going to get a list of virtual students over Christmas break?
What our parents have been doing is we have the portal where it's report an absence, and our parents have been doing a pretty good job of sending, and it goes directly into a database that we can access and see. So if you're reporting that your student was positive over the break, you're submitting that, and so the nurses will have that. And if it's not there on that Monday, sometimes parents are emailing the nurses directly, or sometimes I get emails. And so as we're getting ready to go in, and I'd like to say that we won't look at our emails until Monday, but that won't happen. So our nurses, they're working after hours, and that's just because they care. But yeah, that's how the information will be coming in, and really through email, or even if they leave a voicemail, that still gives our Monday a chance. We shouldn't have to worry about obviously any school related, like close contacting and what class were they in, who'd they sit next to lunch. It'll just be a matter of finding out what kids have to be home. And so teachers know going on that Tuesday who they've had to reach out, and teachers can be contacting an elementary student that's at home. Hey, here's the link, and here's what we'll be doing on Tuesday, so they're ready. And then as far as the Thanksgiving break, and I mentioned this earlier, but I know sometimes it's hard to hear. The return from Thanksgiving hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be in terms of cases. I thought we would see more cases than we've seen. I'm hoping and praying that Christmas we won't see more, but again, that's hard to predict.
Yeah, Matt, I guess my question was kind of, when we were on break, we weren't thinking of, okay, time to call the school because we're on day whatever. In my mind, it would have been, oh, we're going back to school, time to let them know, closer to that coming back to school. So I guess I was asking, hey, on Monday of Thanksgiving break, did somebody report a test result? And did Tuesday, did we get some, or did it all happen when kids came back to school on that week, on that Monday?
Families experiencing positive cases over the break. Most of them were either emailing it directly to the nurses, or they were sending it into the website. And so we were checking our stuff during the break. And our family's been pretty good, especially if there's a positive case. They've been reporting. So, and if they were getting ready to send him back and they said, hey, you know, Johnny's not feeling well. He's not gonna be there. And so we get a mix, but for the most part, folks are pretty good about trying to get word to the nurse one way or another, even during.
Yeah, I don't need to tell you how to do your job, but I'll suggest. Just may remind folks of if something happens over the break as we're sending out the communication, just remind them to let us know as soon as possible, definitely before that Monday or on that Monday if they think Tuesday is going to be in jeopardy, since that's kind of the reason here that we're making this as we're making that communication, just so we don't miss the opportunity we're trying to capitalize on.
There's an email that will go out. I was talking to Donna Moore today. There'll be the elementary sends out there Friday, and so she said there'll be another one going out before the break, because I was asking her about that, because I'll put it in that and put something out to the families, just kind of and put it in a way that's not where they just kind of see that, oh, there's that daily that daily report from Matt on how many, but basically it's going to be, hey, what to do if you have a COVID related, if your family tests for the break, but here's the steps. Yeah, definitely.
Would there be any benefit of asking every person to respond? My student's healthy, I'm planning to be there Tuesday. I don't know.
I think that might give us, we
Overload.
might have to sort through
Yeah, too much information.
more of that. I mean, the big thing that we're wanting to address is that the teachers are already knowing what kids aren't going to be in there. So if there's a kid at home expecting to engage with their teacher, whatever that's going to look like, the teacher knows who that kid is. And the other part is, if kids are showing symptoms and the other part is that they're not sending them to school. I mean, those are the two big things. And so, and our folks have been getting really good about that. But it'll take a reminder, like Jeff said, a direct reminder. Here's what you do during the break. Hey, we want all our folks to be able to enjoy the break. Here's what we ask that you do if you have a positive case in your family. Step, 1, 2, 3. So, and then we should have, Monday will let us get back to the motion. Monday will let us get all that put together instead of trying to do that on the fly while we're starting day 1 of the semester.
All right, any other discussion on that? Okay.
So motion to adjust the school calendar to add one more day, or to add a teacher's work day on the Monday following Christmas break.
Second.
Motion by Bay, second by Lisa, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Hi.
All right, that wraps up open session portion. Thanks for those of you who have joined us online, streaming. Appreciate you being here.